Will Miyagi-Do get the chance to snag those world titles?
Will Johnny finally get redemption and glory for himself and Cobra Kai?
What does the future look like for these senseis and their students?
And will Daniel finally be at peace with Mr. Miyagi's unanswered past?
Red and Red Real Review says goodbye to the dojo with season 6C of Netflix's Cobra Kai.
Ahoy, ladies! I didn't see you there. Would you guys like to set sail on this ocean of flavor?
Randall, look at eye contact, please. You're gonna be cool, right?
Oh, baby, I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow.
Been staring at this board for days.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Act. Bears eat beets.
My brain is on fire. I'm dying.
I am the one who knocks.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
When they say 2% milk, I don't know what the other 98% is.
It's hard to believe we're even the same species.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
Oh my god. The microchip has been compromised.
Dracarys.
And welcome back. You know, it feels like it was just yesterday we were covering the second section of the sixth season, because this is the third section, but that was already like 3 months ago by now. That was November.
And we're like, I don't know, 5 months shy of when the season started.
I know that started in July. They've really dragged out this last season. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. Well, based on what their kind of production value in each episode and the scenes and the different locations they did, I could kind of see why they probably needed space in between each one. But I feel like they probably could have just allotted a longer period of time for production and just shot it all in one.
True. Like they could have done the Lord of the Rings thing where they, shoot a big chunk at a time and then just all work on production and getting it together. But also maybe it was the fact that they didn't want to say goodbye, so they're kind of dragging it out. I think that's kind of what it is, personally.
And I feel like, to that point, because the students kind of grew up a little bit with the show and around each other, that probably was felt a little bit more, because it's kind of like their adolescence and finding themselves in high school years with their co-stars. Yeah,
it's been 7 or 8 years, I think, since it started, 2017 or 2018 or something. So yeah, they're all pushing 30 now, which is crazy. But
there's some of the shots of Miguel at the end of the season. They're doing the flashback. I was like, I forgot he looked like that.
Yeah, I feel like Miguel got like hairier as the show went on.
Yeah, I was thinking to say he had like the high and tight, and now he's kind of like Wild Man.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts going into this third section of the sixth season, and how were you hoping that it would be wrapped up?
I was not expecting a lot of the heartfelt emotions. With this show, I find that I'm laughing a lot. And like the comedy is something that's really written in. I don't want to say forcibly written, because nothing in the show ever feels forced, but there's an intent to be a comedy as much as a drama or an action or anything like that. And this one, it felt like they wrapped it up trying to be a bit more emotional, heartfelt, profound, a lot of more deeper feelings with it.
Yeah, we'll go into it in a bit, but I kind of had it broken out into sections of comedy and fun versus heartfelt moments, being in the feels, which I feel like I'm like 50-50 on this show. Like there'll be moments where I'll kind of snicker at, and I love Johnny, and we'll get into some of the Johnny moments, but I feel like it's definitely a show for me that, depending on if I'm hormonal or not, I'm like waterworks There's been
Oh.
so, and not just this part of the season, like last section, like I could say that for the past like few years, the past few seasons, especially seeing the arc of Kreese over the years. I can get the waterworks going for some of those moments, and sometimes
Well,
kind of unexpectedly, but that's kind of what the creators do well, is they really have this balance of comedy and fun things, and they have their montages, they have their fight scenes, na, 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 na. They have the crazy
in
electric
that back.
guitar moments. So yeah, I mean they kind of bridge the gap and make you feel something, but they also keep you on the edge of your seat. They keep you laughing. So they do it all.
Well, I feel like anyone who may be hormonal watching this particular part of the season definitely got some waterworks going for that last scene with their LaRusso family.
Yeah, you know what? I think I was actually pretty good in the last episode. It was the earlier episodes that really got me ugly crying. So
Even
um
the airport scene at the end.
no, no.
Oh,
No, I guess you could say I'm really not attached to the couples. I mean, I don't have an issue with them, but oh, you mean the with
no, with the just the LaRussos, not the couples, just the LaRussos at the airport.
oh, where she was telling him that she's so like you're always going to be a sensei?
No, no, no. When they're saying
They were
goodbye
sa
to Sam,
Oh,
when they're
yeah.
saying goodbye to Sam.
Oh, I was kind of chuckling because Amanda was like, "I can't wait. Oh, I can't believe you're leaving." Like she was,
No,
so distraught. But it was kind of comical. I don't think it was set up to be like a moment where you're supposed to like see the pain. Like I was just like she's reacting like a typical mom. Like I kind of like laughed. I thought it was
I
like I was
think
like,
I think you were with Daniel and Sam. I think the emotion was very heavy in that moment.
yeah.
The daddy's little girl going off.
There were a lot of we'll say parental figure moments in
Hmm.
this section of the season. There was a lot of that stuff. So let's just pick it up from how it began. Obviously, when it started out with Kwan's funeral, I knew that how it ended last section, that we were going to be dealing with some sort of aftermath of Kwan's death. So I didn't know if they would make a decision about like making a do-over for the Sekai Taikai, or if they were going to decide something with that, if they were just going to say, oh, let's let him rest and let's not do this tournament competition thing. So that's what I was kind of intending to see. I wasn't sure how that was going to be done, but I knew that they were going to be dealing with that. And then it was with the kids wondering about what college they're going to go to. I knew they had to wrap it up with a certain finality to it. And then with Johnny and Daniel's ever-changing relationship, what was their future as senseis going to be like, and what were they going to do next? Is Daniel going to go back to the car dealership full time and that's really his thing, or is Johnny going to say, I really have this dream of having my own dojo, and I really have my dream of having a future with karate because I don't have anything else. So that's kind of where I started off the season with as far as expectations. So what did you kind of you had a comment about you were very excited for the fights.
I was because, and maybe it's just the fact that I've really never been let down by this series.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I feel like everything that needed a bow tied on it, a
Mm,
bow neatly tied on it, I had confidence that it was going to be taken care of. So, and I knew that even though I kind of was not surprised with how they started it with the tournament, like kind of it seemed like it was not going to complete. I kind of was not surprised. Like I figured there would be some kind of momentum to get it back going. So like I thought it was going to be on a pause or on hiatus, and the character's intent was not to finish it.
mm.
Um, So I, but I knew that they would figure out a way to do it. So I knowing, kind of feeling confident that that was going to happen, and being confident that there was not going to be anything left unresolved. I think I was just excited for the action.
Yeah, you know what? I actually had that feeling too. And I mean, you can say what you want. Like my husband rags on this show, but he's like, "Oh, it's stupid," But it's
Stupid.
it can be a little corny at times. Like, don't get me wrong. When I first started watching it, I was like, "Oh, geez, they're gonna come in here with their guitar riffs and whatnot. Like, this is ridiculous." But that's the thing is, similar to you, I never had the feeling at any point, like leading up to this, even, with the last section, I never was like, I never had any doubts that they were going to end it and that they were going to end it well. Like I never was like, oh man, if they don't do the right thing, like this could end up in the Hall of Horrors with like one of the worst series finales ever. Or, I never thought that. That never was entered my mind at all.
No fear that it was going to take a prince's throne next to Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And you know what? We'll talk about the ending at the end, obviously. So but yeah, I will say that going into it, I never was like, oh no, if they don't, it really, everything rides on how they end this thing. Like I
That's
never
right.
thought that.
Yeah.
So with this show, I mentioned, it's equal parts heart and comedy. So let's talk about the lighter highlights first. So what were some of your fun or funny moments?
I will say I didn't have nearly as many as I usually do, just because I was more enticed by the heavy stuff.
By the
But
action and the
yeah,
heart.
yeah. But the first one I kind of chuckled at was which fight was it? It must have been when they first restarted it. It must have been during Robbie's fight when
It was
when he
Robbie's,
got hurt.
yes.
And Amanda's like, she's got the little bonsai. I think she had like little bonsai trees tattooed on her cheeks, and she's wearing like a
I didn't notice
fangirl.
that.
She was like she had something tattooed on her cheek. I assume they're bonsai
Oh, like
trees,
face
but
paint. Yeah.
yeah. And she's got like this gee fangirl outfit type of deal, and she's just like full on nerding out over the tournament, which I mean I thought was funny because I mean it was obviously done to be cutesy, but I
Yeah.
also thought it was funny because throughout most of this series she's been kind of the anti-karate wife, like she doesn't like how it takes over Daniel's life and makes him crazy, and she questions how Sam keeps getting in trouble with it. So it was kind of almost like a full circle for her to embrace her husband and daughter's love of this
Yeah.
activity, this sport.
To show her support. And I really love the fact that, I mean, this was Robbie's match. Like, this wasn't a match for like her kid, and the fact that she was just like, hoo, 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 or she was like whooping or something
Yeah.
in the crowd. And like, I love the fact that like she and Carmen are like really tight now, like, because the husbands are pretty good friends, her and Carmen are pretty tight. So like, it's Amanda, Carmen, and Carmen's mother, at all these matches, and they're like ringside. They're all being supportive.
When she yelled at the end, like "kick his ass, Miggy" in Spanish or whatever or something.
She said, "I feel
Not
like
Carmen, the grandmother. The
grandmother."
Abuela
Yes,
said that, yeah.
I did. She did say "kick his ass." Oh, she said Miggy. Yeah. And then I don't know. So generally, I love that Amanda moment, but I really just enjoyed her this season. Like I love her. I think she's like so pretty when she's on the screen. I'm just like, that lady is so freaking pretty, and she's so like aging gracefully, and like I loved the fact that she's just so supportive of everyone. She kind of takes is worried about Chozen, and decides to take him on this double date. And I laughed at the part too at the end where she saw Daniel enter with a black gi, and she goes, I think I
Daniel
like
looks
Daniel
good.
in a black gi. Yeah, she's like, ooh.
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny, but I generally really enjoyed her this part of the season. What was another one of your moments?
This one I can't say it was a laugh moment, but when Johnny is like restless before the fight with Wolf and he can't sleep and Daniel senses that something's bothering him when he's training with Chozen and he runs outside and Daniel walks outside like, well, I'm your sensei, but I'm also your friend. I know when one of my students something's bothering them and he kind of gets him back into the groove, and then all of a
Mm,
sudden they started playing "You're the best,"
yeah.
and the two of them are like running up and down the valley, and they've got this like massive crowd of people. I'm like watching it like I want to run through a brick wall right now.
Oh, you didn't like it? I thought it was a
No, that's a
fun.
good thing.
Oh,
Adrenaline,
you.
run through a
Oh,
brick
okay.
wall,
I
run through a
I
brick
thought
wall.
you meant like it was so cheesy. I wanted to run through a
No,
brick
no, no. It
wall.
was the right type of cheesy because of course that's the title track from the original film.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It was a
yeah.
nice callback, and I was like, here we go with another montage. We're gonna talk about montages a little bit in the next section, but yeah,
At the
that
top, we're
was.
gonna bring you down.
I love that song. I think it's that was a fun little callback, and another way for them to tie everything together and tie it up with a nice little bow, like the fact that Daniel is training Johnny.
Yeah, yeah, that was this like acceptance for their continuous rivalry. That when when they're good, you're just waiting for them to be bad again. It was kind of a nice little like closing of the circle. The fact
A
that
full circle, yeah,
they're well, yes, but like a closing of that circle.
yeah.
So for like them for the audience to know that they're really good this time, like that they're really good for eternity this time
Like they're
because
solid,
it
yeah.
took a lot. We know it takes a lot for Johnny to ask Daniel to train him.
Yeah, I thought that was cute. I liked that whole moment. And then let's see. Contrary to that, like I thought it was funny how, in that moment, Daniel's like, oh, well, I can see what you're going through. I'm your sensei or something. And then during the match with the senseis, Chosen says like, well, you're his sensei. You're supposed to figure out, what he
Yeah,
needs and stuff. So that's where Daniel kind of hypes up Johnny, and he kind of gives him a taste of his own treatment in medicine, and he's basically telling him to step it up, but he calls Johnny the P word, which I won't repeat, but I thought that was hilarious because you have like Daniel who is so like prim and proper, and he throws out the P word like to get through to Johnny in that moment.
go go tear that asshole a new one. He just sounds like you're a badass. He's like using all the Johnny isms.
Yeah, yeah. He's literally like trying to be Johnny in that moment because he knows that's what he needs. Like that's how he probably talks to himself. So he's like, I'm going to talk to you how you would talk to yourself.
Speaking of bad words, I think this last season probably dropped the most F-bombs I've ever heard in the series.
I think so. I think so. And it was mostly Johnny, I think.
Daniel said it once.
Oh, he did.
I think Daniel probably said it in that moment. Maybe he was like,
Maybe. I think he did.
fuck that asshole up or something like
I was
that.
kind of surprised
Yeah.
to see him like that, but we would expect that of Johnny. Speaking of Johnny, there were there's kind of like a lot of those, like, I won't call it a fish out of water moment, but a lot of like little funny things that Johnny does, and this has been happening for seasons. But like a couple of the funny moments is like going to his minister friend, and I think he says something about like, "Can I do that thing in the box where like I talk to you?" And his friend is like, "You mean confession?" He's like, "Well, this is not a Catholic church. You can talk to me, I guess, if you want."
And when he leave, and he also when he's like, what were the name of those two girls you hooked up in the three way or whatever, and he couldn't remember, and then as he's leaving, he was like Tanya and LaRusso or whatever they were.
Yeah.
It's like Honey and Marissa, as he's walking out
That
the
was
door.
so funny. Yeah, that was a funny moment. And then I was laughing when Johnny talks to Carmen's mom and he's like, "I'm gonna propose to her. Like, I know what I have to do." So he he goes to like Google, or he's searching on his computer, and the way that he types it in with the two fingers, he types in best proposal ideas ever, and he's like following all those ideas to a T. Like, I thought that was just so funny, the way that he was typing and what he searched, and the fact that he was like, trying to cook meals and like just taking such literal advice from what he read.
Johnny's tech struggles are something. It wasn't the first time we see him in the show, because remember when he was trying to. I don't remember what season it was, when he was trying to reach out to Allie, or Elizabeth Shue's
Yes.
character, the ex, and he's looking her up on Facebook, and it's like old school Facebook.
Yes. Yeah, that was so funny. I love these moments where Johnny is just totally technologically impaired. Like, I think that's so funny. And then there were a couple moments where he just did something that was just funny. Like when Daniel at the end tries to catch the fly with the chopsticks, and he's like really trying, and then Johnny just comes back from the bathroom and he's like, "Got him!" And he just smashes him. He's like, "Oh, like, just, completely hijacks like Daniel's moment," but like that's just how he is. Like, it was so funny. And then at the end, when he was asking him about property tax, like he like didn't understand bills.
He said, I paid this when I bought it, and Danny goes, "Yeah, and you have to pay this one too." Like, he's like trying to imply like it's gonna come every year.
Because, like, obviously, we know that Johnny has, kind of a checkered history. He probably has a bad credit history.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really know how things work. And, especially he's never owned a home before. So I thought that was another like fish out of water kind of thing to chuckle at.
Till he surprises Carmen with it.
Yes.
The chopstick scene was probably the moment where I laughed the hardest. Of course, it's the last scene of it.
I
But
know.
I mean, they're doing these cutbacks to scenes from Karate Kid where he catches the chopsticks in front of Mr. Miyagi, and he's like, "Oh, beginner's luck." So you're thinking this is going to be some profound moment of nostalgia to kind of, invoke one last callback to the Karate Kid, and he's sitting there, and then when Johnny comes in and smacks it in his typical bull in a china shop fashion, the fact that he kills the fly and he says, "No mercy."
Oh, he does.
The Cobra Kai tagline. I was like, that is the perfect way to end this, because you thought you were gonna get this moment of nostalgia, but it's right back to focusing on Johnny, which makes sense because the show's obviously Cobra Kai. It's not called Miyagi Do.
Right. And it's showing what the true essence of these characters really is like at the end of the day. And the series finale, the last few minutes of the episode, like, that's Johnny to a T, and that's Daniel to a T. Both of their behavior in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the peace and balance versus just shoot from the hip, kind of act before you speak.
Yeah, they kind of.
What's the expression? Shoot first, ask questions later. That's what I was trying to do.
Oh, I was going to say think before you speak.
No, the other way, the bad way.
The other way. Okay. Yeah. We didn't really see him as much in this section, but Chozen had a couple good moments. First of all, him being into trash reality TV, where he's just like, "Oh, I'm going to stay home and watch Storage Wars." And he's like, "I only have 16 episodes left," and I was dying. And then Amanda's like, "Wait, so you're going to sit there and watch 8 hours of Storage Wars?" Like, yeah, I just thought that was so funny that was his life. He's so into trash reality TV. And then Amanda decides that he's going to go on this double date with Moon's mom, who we know has got to be like.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that, or I missed.
Oh,
that.
you didn't realize that it was Moon's mom?
Mm-mm. I just thought she was one of Amanda's girlfriends.
Well, and did you notice who it is?
I saw your note. I did not recognize her, but I saw your note, and I know who that is. That's Jesse, right? From Saved by the
Jesse
Bell.
from Say by the Bell. Yeah,
Yeah.
Elizabeth Berkley.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that I thought that was a nice little, moment to, because Karate Kid, is like a classic series, to have also someone of like, early 90s fandom from Say by the Bell on. That was kind of fun. And I loved how, it first started out with him being so skeptical of all her stuff. Like, I laughed out loud when he told her that crystals are bullshit. Because I was like, yes, they are.
What did he say? The only thing more bullshit than crystals is tarot cards?
Yeah, when she's like, "Oh, you want me to read your tarot?" And yeah, when he said crystals are bullshit, I was like, he is all of us, because I also think that.
And when he says Reiki is bullshit in Japanese to Daniel, and then immediately translates to English when he's sitting right in front of her.
Yeah, he was just so adamant about the fact that he didn't want to be there, and then they start bonding over Storage Wars, which was like a 180 turn, which was hilarious. And I thought Elizabeth Berkley was great in that scene.
By the time they started talking about it, I agree. It was very funny because she's pulling out Daryl Sheets and all these references that you wouldn't know unless you watched the show. But I will say, and I won't say it publicly, if you think about it, you know why, that invoking Storage Wars is a little too real for me.
I've never seen Storage Wars once in my life.
I've seen far too many episodes.
Oh, okay. So you're a Chozen type.
Well, not by choice.
Hey, we all veg out in, I don't like to say it, binge. We like to binge reality TV. That, we're no stranger to that. I did that with that Mormon Wives show, so it's okay.
Mormon Wives.
Yeah. Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Awesome. Go check it out if you love reality TV.
And actually, because they're doing the trash TV, and he throws in 90 Day Fiance reference, now that is the token trash TV.
That I think I have seen it once, but that's it.
I've seen a couple episodes, and I'm like, why am I watching this? I will never do this again.
And then just to wrap up the highlights, I thought it was funny that Gunther, the Sekai Taikai host, he really wants to host it in the Valley version of the tournament, and they're kind of giving him some trouble, like, oh, well, we have a process to do these things.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I have a process too. Basically, let's fight and I'll be the host. So he literally it's no contest. He just I think he just kicks this guy, and the guy falls to the ground. So he
roundhouse to the face.
he really fought for that host position, which I thought was funny because, you're just like, this guy is just, a karate host, but he really, really embodied the spirit of a true karate champion to get that host position.
And the fact that he made good with that guy at the end before Johnny and Wolf fight, and when he hands him the mic, the guy's got this such geeked out look on his face, oh yes, thank you so much.
I don't think I even noticed that, but that's hilarious that they called back to that.
Yeah. And when he gave him the mic, he was so geeked out. When he was so geeked out to announce the final fight, I was like, that's funny.
I love moments like that. And speaking of geeking out and a little more alternative, silly character, so Stingray at the end is talking to the kids, and he's talking a big game, and he says, oh, well, we're all at capacity, but I'm teaching this sensei. I'm going to be the sensei for the beginner class, so we see that he's going to be teaching at Johnny's dojo, but just the way that he acts with this, there's 30 kids out there. They're all like, what is this guy's problem? Like, he's just so weird.
I also found it. The funniest part I found about like when he's talking to the kids is the fact that okay, he's a junior sensei or whatever. He's wearing a yellow belt. So he's not even a black. I don't know off the top of my head what the levels of all the colors are, other than white and black. But I know yellow's somewhere in here. It's not right
in the
near
middle.
top. Yeah. So it's the fact that he's a sensei and he's wearing a yellow belt. I was like, that's something you don't see every day.
Yeah, I loved that moment because that was really the only moment we saw him in this section, and I don't think he was really in the last section that much either. But I liked the fact that they brought him back and had that funny little moment of like, if Johnny's going to have a dojo, of course, he would be involved with it.
And the fact that he gets interrupted from a phone call with his mother and he's arguing with her, and then as he walks off, he realizes that he's yelling at his mother in front of all these kids, and he turns around and goes, "Moms are not the enemy."
Yeah, I have to shake my head and laugh at some of these things. So now that we've gone over the light highlights, not to get us all down in the dumps, but it seems sort of like the theme of 6C was healing. They're trying to wrap things up. They're trying to tie up the show. What sort of defining moments did you see as contributing towards tying up the show with a nice little bow?
I'll start off with one of your favorite ones with Kreese, because to me,
I loved Kreese.
To me, it felt like Kreese really wasn't directly a big part of this last segment.
Yeah.
But the moments he was in that completed his not reconciliation, but for lack of a better word, of his character arc.
Yeah.
To me, that kind of they had the most ripple effect on the series.
Yes.
And he has this guilt over Kwan's death, to the point where like he's questioning not only how good a sensei he is, but also how good a person he is to Kim Dae-un. And that, I think, is what triggers his actual tangible actions to reconcile with Tori and Johnny. And that reconciliation for both of them is I think it was a very pivotal moment in both Tori's path and Johnny's path, because it kind of was a relief of a lot of their aggression and negative feelings.
Right. It was something that was hanging over both of them, and he was just kind of able to make it go away. In the part where he shows up, like I always loved. There were a few moments where like we're kind of, in the past seasons where we're questioning whether he legitimately cares about Tori or whether he's like just trying to pull a fast one and like, just make Miyagi-Do miserable, So you're kind of, but like you see at the end, like he really does care about Tori. Like I loved that relationship at the end and how he's saying, I have to say goodbye to you. And she's like, but does it have to be? And he said, yes, I'm sorry, it does. And, but yeah, I think that was what she needed. And Johnny too, like I think Johnny just needed to hear like I'm sorry, which is what Kreese said to him, and he thanked him actually for what he did in Barcelona to save him, because wasn't Silver like about to stab him, or somebody was about to stab Kreese, and Johnny intervened. So he literally thanks him, says thank you for what you did for me in Barcelona, and then it's split up between a couple scenes where, Kreese kind of went to make his amends and then Johnny wasn't having it. So then Johnny is, I think he's like putting stuff in his trunk, and then Kreese comes up to him and Johnny's like, he kind of yells at him and he's like, go away. And Kreese says, like, I get it. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But then they make amends where Kreese says, I was wrong in that moment to, they show like this was a very popular thing that they were doing is they kept showing scenes from earlier Karate Kid movies, just to show the viewer what he was apologizing for. It's been a long time. Like I watched the Karate Kids movies when I was a kid and I don't remember them that well. So to see that moment where he's like, Kreese is just like beating up on him for not winning the tournament or whatever. He literally was able to say, I did severe wrong and I'm sorry for that. Like with Johnny like crying, and like William Zabka did an amazing job in that scene, but I was like a mess during that scene.
Almost to the point where you felt like Johnny, like that was such a big moment of Kreese's apology to him that Johnny almost didn't know what to do with those emotions.
Yeah.
He didn't know how to process them into some kind of transactional response.
Yeah, just the chemistry between them too as like sensei and student. I mean like we've seen it before, but just all of those moments, and they just have such chemistry. And I knew that with Kreese making amends with Tori and with Johnny, and I don't know if we'll talk about it at the end, but that whole exchange that he has with Silver, where Silver is basically like, oh well, you're acting this way because Johnny makes you weak and all this stuff, and Kreese is literally like, to the contrary, like he makes me stronger. He says he's a source of strength, and I was just like, now that he's made amends, they're gonna kill him.
Now, I actually didn't want to talk about that now though. But to that point, that's almost like the confirmation of Kreese's realization of like an outside of himself. Like he's not this selfish, self-centered, power-hungry person anymore. The fact that he acknowledges Johnny's relationship to him as something that helped him. Johnny wasn't just an asset for him to get to his own glory.
Right. I mean, he had visions in past scenes of like killing Johnny. Like, all this stuff. So I think he's just kind of working through his emotions and regret and guilt, and the death of Quan kind of triggered that in him, and he realizes what kind of person he is, and then he apologizes to Kim Dae-eun as well, says like, you didn't need me, like you can do this.
Yeah. And I also wanted to make note of something you said, something you drew attention to with when Tori asks, like, does it have to be goodbye? And he does. Like, in that point, we don't realize what he's going to do with Silver. But, like, yes, it has to be goodbye is actually a pretty terminal statement.
Yeah.
Which I think, speaking of Kim Dae-eun, I think that was a sort of indirect callback to that. Because when he's questioning himself to her and she says, I think she tries to make him feel a little better, like it doesn't mean, that you're a bad sensei or you can't be a good person or anything like that. I feel like his sacrifice to eliminate Silver once and for all was kind of probably in his head the only way he could feel like his soul was redeemed.
Right, and how he could make things peaceful for Johnny, who he cared about, and even Daniel,
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the Kreese stuff just had me in the feels, but yeah, I sort of knew that, they're making you love him to take him away. Exactly,
yeah. And especially as it sets up the fight, because that was kind of Kreese's last direct gesture to Johnny to try and make good, because was handing over Cobra Kai to him so that he could name Miguel as Robbie's replacement, and the fight with Axel could continue.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it at the end, but I had a little bit of a slight bone to pick about Kreese dying. That kind of
Other than just being a fangirl.
no, so we'll talk about that, but I'll just be very vague and mysterious and leave you wanting more for another few minutes. But so I mean, I feel like these, in order to tie up the show, we had a lot of flashbacks to the Karate Kid times. The show's creators, they love a montage. Even Rocky had a montage. But there were so many good ones. Team America, they have the montage song. Remember?
No, I don't.
Okay, look up the montage song. It's so good. It's exactly like every time there was a montage, like that's what I was thinking of. But there were a lot of, montages of like training montages. Like there was the one where they decide that Tori and Miguel are going to go to the finals and everyone is pitching in. Like you have like Hawk and Dimitri, everybody's in the dojo pitching in to help them train and to do their best. We had the You're the Best Around training montage. And then there were a lot of good ones that just got me in the feels. I was like, man, is somebody like cutting onions somewhere? Because I'm just like, I can't stop. Like it was just the subtle things. Like even when, Johnny kind of has that impromptu wedding with Carmen at the hospital, and his minister friend is talking about Johnny and Carmen, right? About meeting and being best friends and that kind of thing. And as he's going on this speech about like, this couple being best friends, then they do a cut to like Sam and Tori training. Tori's helping her train. And then there's a scene between Dimitri and Hawk where they're like clowning around. I don't even know what they're doing. But I just love that because I was like, these are like, Sam and Tori went through a lot. They freaking hated each other's guts. And like now they're good friends. And like Tori's helping train Sam. And then like Dimitri and Hawk had their thing where they were not sure if they were going to go to the same school. They had some difficulties with that. But then they came back together like they're best friends. And they know that they don't want anything to come between that. So that best friends montage, I like lost it. I was like, oh, it's so beautiful that Sam and Tori are training each other.
I think my most memorable one was all of Miguel's fights throughout the series, before that last round with Axel.
Yeah, that was cool too. Like the moment where, remember when he like broke his back or his spine or whatever it was, and that was when he's like, I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it. And Johnny's like, yeah, you're doing it. Like that kind of made me tear up a little bit too. Like seeing all those moments, because you forget about those moments.
Oh yeah.
Just a few seasons ago.
They went back to when he was a real nerd and Johnny was training him. And then through the spine thing, then there was a scene where he was fighting either Dimitri or Hawk in the forest. Obviously, there were multiple fights with Robbie, so like there was a lot. They squeezed into flashing through his motivation to beat Axel. That was like Miguel has fought a lot.
Yeah, there were so many moments of like people either thanking somebody for everything that they've done for them, which like I found very endearing, and then a lot of moments of people who had strained relationships making amends, obviously with Kreese, but you had Tori thanking the LaRusso family. Like she doesn't even just thank Sam. She's like, thank you, Amanda and Daniel, like for everything you've done for me. Like I wouldn't have, the way I acted and stuff. I'm just so shocked of everything you've done for me.
And the fact that they responded to her like, of course we would.
Yeah.
They didn't even need her to thank them.
Yeah, it was that moment, and then it was Johnny and the moment with Johnny and Robbie, that destroyed me too. Where like,
Oh, in the locker room after he breaks his leg.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I
and
love you,
Johnny's just,
Dad.
yeah, he's like, I love you, man, and he's like, he's kind of laughing. He's like, I love you too. Like that, they've after their roller coaster relationship, like Robbie hated his dad's freaking guts at one point, you know. So they've come a long way, and then
Yeah.
it was uh Johnny telling Miguel, being your sensei is the best thing I've ever done. Like during that montage,
Yeah.
all these moments, I was like, are they trying to make me cry?
That's
Like,
that's the most badass. You're the most. You're that's the most badass thing you've ever done. You're Miguel fucking Diaz.
yeah, yeah. I loved those moments, and the fact that, you know, it's funny because you think of the fact that Miguel's mom, Carmen, had this baby with Johnny, right? So you're like,
Yeah.
okay, of course, you know, Miguel is this baby's a brother. But then,
So is
like,
Robbie.
exactly. And that's what I didn't really think of, but I loved that scene with the birth of the baby, and then you find out it's named Laura after Johnny's mom. That moment in the hospital, you like when Carmen's holding the baby and Johnny comes along and like literally puts his arms around Miguel on one side and Robbie on the other. And it's like that moment of their baby sister being born like solidified them as like a big happy family, like a family
Yeah.
unit. And then he says, like, to the baby, I think he holds the baby and he says, I'm gonna pick up world titles or for your brother.
For your
For your
brother.
brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's what he said. I thought he said meet your brothers, but that's what it was. It was I've got to
Yeah,
go
it
win a
was
trophy with your brothers or for your brothers or whatever it
yeah,
was.
it was like, this has been nice, little girl, you being born, but I gotta go get some business taken care of, and like
Yeah.
your brothers are gonna sweep some world titles, you know.
Yeah. um. I know you hate the couples arcs.
I don't hate them. It's just like I did write them down, to be fair. I wrote down, you know, Robbie saying I love you to Tori, and that kind of gave her the oomph that she needed to win the fight or win the match. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was nice that Miguel ended up going to Okinawa to spend time with Sam. But for me, it's just weird because I'm thinking of the real life couples. You know, the fact that the actress who plays Tori is with, I think her name is Peyton something. The fact that she's with Hawk in real life and they've been together for like a few years, and the fact that apparently the actors who play Sam and Robbie are engaged. So like I'm just thinking of that when I see like Tori and Robbie kiss. I'm just like, oh my god, that's so weird. Like you're kissing your friend's boyfriend. Like,
Well, I look at that and think because I mean we see actors and actresses sleep together all the time,
I know,
and
but
we
it's
know
just
they're not together in real life. So
it must be
like
so odd.
I feel like I'm sure it's odd. I'm sure there's a little bit of oddity for the
Hmm.
actors, but I also feel like if they can pull off something believable on screen, and you know not only that obviously they're not together in real life, but they're together with a completely different co-star, but it
Yeah.
still feels genuine and believable on screen. To me, I look at that as like that's a real testament to their their acting credentials.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is too, because in prior seasons, like I did like Sam and Robbie together. Like I was like, I know the fact that she's with Miguel and she's happy like at certain points, but I was like, I kind of liked her with Robbie. And like that's probably I don't know if that's life imitating art or art imitating life. I don't even know. But just for
I,
me to recognize the fact that they had chemistry because they were a real couple.
yeah, but I don't know. I never liked Sam and Robbie in the show together because
Really?
yeah, because I felt like Sam and Miguel had the couple of destiny from the beginning because Sam Sam liked Miguel before he was a champion.
That's true. That's
When he was
true.
still nerdy Miguel, so she saw what he could have been before he was what he became. If that makes sense. If that makes sense the way I worded it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's just cap off the tying up the show with Daniel, because we haven't really talked about Daniel that much. So, I mean, obviously, with this section, we saw from the beginning that he's kind of suffering from some like PTSD with Kwan's death, because he was like right there and saw it, and he's trying not to admit that he's having issues, and everyone kind of sees it, and he doesn't want to admit it, and he's kind of going through a lot, like with just kind of the ghost of Mr. Miyagi haunting him. And we see a couple like AI generated images of
Pat Morita.
Miyagi.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I was looking up. Apparently, I mean, I was pretty sure that actor did die. He died way back in like 2005 or 2007. So it's been a while. So, I mean, regardless, I feel like it was okay, like the AI generation of him or whatever.
Yeah, they're never going to be perfect, but I mean, it was as good as when they recreated young Princess Leia at the end of I think it was Rogue One, one of the newer Star Wars movies. It was as believable as that one. So I was like, I can deal with fake Pat Morita for a moment.
Especially like, wasn't it like a vision or like a dream he was having or something?
It was, and I thought that was a nice nostalgic tie back to the original film, because if memory serves correctly, I'm pretty sure that there was a scene where Daniel got in a fight with all those thugs in the skeleton outfits, and they were led by Johnny. So honestly, that happened. That's that kind of vision happening. I wasn't even necessarily expecting him and Mr. Miyagi to team up and fight back the thugs. I thought that there was going to be some Johnny thing there, like one of them was going to rip off the mask and reveal young Johnny, or even present day Johnny, whatever the case may be.
I did like the fact that in this vision he had, or daydream or whatever it was, like Miyagi starts like fighting with him, right? So it was sort of like he had to make amends with Mr. Miyagi, with Miyagi-Do like used as an art form, like so him going through all of that and the PTSD with Kwan's death, like I think he had to go through all of that, and the fact that Sam didn't want to fight in the tournament, and just all of that made him realize how he felt about all of that, like really deep down, and he had to like be okay with it and accept it.
I don't think it's far-fetched to tie the two together, because we know Mr. Miyagi killed someone in the tournament,
right,
when he competed. So I don't think it's off base at all to tie some kind of guilt, even though he was not remotely responsible for Kwan's death, to tie some kind of indirect guilt to his insecurity over whatever happened with Mr. Miyagi in his tournament.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessarily guilt. Like, I wonder if it might be like, oh, well, this mentor to me, like, I can't believe I found out that he did this horrible thing. So it's just like,
no, guilt with Kwan.
Oh, with Kwan.
Yeah. He feels some guilt about that, even though he didn't really have anything to do with it.
Well, I think they kind of show that in slow motion. Wasn't he kind of the one to see what was about to transpire? And he just couldn't really get there in time. It was just like he was like going in slow motion, like to race to stop it, and he couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was part of it, and it was just like, it was a result of his complicated feelings with Miyagi having killed someone at the tournament, and that's how he was then able to really, like, this was a big thing when he uttered the phrase, "Oh, haven't you heard Cobra Kai never dies," to Silver.
Yeah.
That was like, I I didn't cry for that one, but I was like, yes. Like I was like, that's so crazy the fact that he's saying that.
It was the final middle finger to Silver because it was finally a moment to show. Because no matter what Silver does, he always gets under Daniel's skin, and that was like the final moment that Daniel said, like, you can't do this anymore. You're not living rent
Yes.
free in my head anymore.
Yeah, and Daniel kind of took the power back, and I thought that was so like badass that Daniel was the one to say that, and that's, I mean, it takes a lot to. I mean, him and Johnny had the combined dojo with Miyagi-Do and in Cobra Kai. What
Eagle
did they
Fang.
call it?
The
Yeah.
Miyagi Fang or whatever.
Yeah, Miyagi Fang. Yeah, so it's like they had the combined studio, but like for him to be wearing a black gi, you know, of Cobra Kai and to say those words in that moment, that was just like, yeah, that was definitely a tie up where I was just like, yes.
It was a selfless moment because
Mm,
um he tying to when Sam decided she wasn't gonna fight, and he
yeah.
said, "You've learned Mr. Miyagi's lesson way
Mm,
earlier than I ever did. But karate is something we love and we're passionate about, but we don't need it to fight. We don't, the best thing we can learn about karate is when we don't have to fight."
mm,
Uh, so I feel like him kind of being so selfless to put Miyagi-Do aside for a moment to support
yes.
Johnny and Cobra Kai and a Cobra Kai gi was a kind of connected to that realization with Sam over Mr. Miyagi's biggest lesson.
Yeah, and like I feel like, you know, to do that thing, like to be wearing the gi of the the team that you fought against for years and to support, you know, Johnny in the way that he does, it's like it takes a lot of balls for somebody
Hmm.
to do something like that, to throw support behind something they always wanted to, you know, cease to
Destroy.
exist or to tear down. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then the other thing that I thought was a resolution for Daniel was the scene with the necklace.
Yeah. Uh,
And he realizes, because he wasn't just torn apart about Mr. Miyagi killing someone in the tournament. He was
hmm.
torn apart about that news clipping, which I'd actually kind of forgotten about,
Yeah.
of him assaulting and killing someone. And he's like, oh my mentor is this violent person,
Right.
and all of a sudden he realizes, as his mother is telling Sam the story of how she got Miyagi, Mr. Miyagi's wife's necklace, how she got that. And he starts putting two and two together in his head, like he wasn't just going out being aggressive and killing someone. He was going to find this necklace that was this prized possession
Yeah.
of his wife.
Yeah. And that came full circle, giving Sam the necklace.
Yes, yeah. Especially knowing that Mr. Miyagi wanted her to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was a nice way to, again, all these things tied things up really well. So, I mean, overall, like we did talk about the fact that we didn't really have doubts or anything that this was going to end up being a steaming pile of garbage at the end. Like we did not think that, but were you satisfied with the ending?
I was because everything was wrapped up. I don't really I feel the need to have this continue in some other way.
Hmm.
I'm okay to just let this breathe as it is. Like, we know Robbie and Tori get this chance of a lifetime to be famous and make something of their
Right.
lives and of karate. We know Miguel and Sam are going to be okay, even if they're apart
Mm-hmm.
for a little while. Their relationship's going to endure. We know Johnny has resolution not just in his life, as far as being a success and not a failure.
Yep.
This especially based off that scene at his mother's grave at the end.
Mm.
Um, but we also know that he's fulfilled from a karate standpoint with reopening Cobra Kai. He's fulfilled with his relationship with Daniel. Like they're legitimate best bros now. So and Daniel is at peace as far as karate not being a burden to him. It's something he can enjoy genuinely and not feel like he always has to prove something to himself, to Mr. Miyagi's spirit, whatever the case may be. Like everything feels at peace. And
Yeah.
it's like one of those finales where, Breaking Bad ended, you didn't need to see anything else. Yellowstone ended, you don't need to see anything else. It just feels complete.
I agree with that. I mean, I had heard that the creators were thinking of a spin-off. They were being interviewed and the interviewer said something about like, oh, how about a spin-off for Hawk and Dimitri like at college or something, and the creators were kind of laughing like, haha, have you been reading our notes, because like we actually have pushed that idea around. And I'm just kind of like, you know what, like I feel the same way that you do. I think it's crazy the fact that the Karate Kid franchise was sleeping for 30, 35, whatever
Yeah.
amount of years it was. So like, and then they revived it and brought it back, and it actually was engaging. It wasn't bad. I mean, no hate to Fuller House or anything like that. Sorry. But it actually was something they brought back that did well and there was a story behind it. And I don't know. It would have to be karate related, wouldn't it? Like if they want to keep it in the Cobra Kai universe, like it's not just going to be them like a regular show like at college.
Yeah, Binary Bros doesn't work, no. It's a cool little side joke, but it doesn't work as something that carries the to be like a super bad meets Big Bang Theory type of bro duo sitcom.
Right.
I don't need that.
I cannot. It's weird because I thought of Big Bang too. I'm like, what if they just had them as being these like nerds at this college? Like, I can't see that. There has to be karate tied in if it's going to continue with the Cobra Kai universe. So getting to the little slight bone I had to pick, and again, it's a slight because I generally was satisfied, but there was this little thing that I was like slightly disappointed in, and that was how there was a lot with Kreese making amends earlier in the earlier episodes,
Yeah.
but then he when they got in the fight on the yacht, on Silver's yacht, then he sees, I think it's a cigar. Is that what it is? He sees a cigar.
He was smoking it when he approached Silver, and then it just got knocked out of his hand when they were fighting.
Okay, I didn't know that was his cigar. I wasn't sure if it was Silver's or whose it was, but I just noticed that obviously as they're fighting, there's gasoline being spilled everywhere, and I'm like, oh God. And then he sees it's kind of just out of his reach, and he plans obviously to throw this cigar into the gasoline to make everything go boom. And obviously we see him get that chance, but that's how the episode ended. It was never addressed. It was never referenced or talked about. Like I just could have dealt with like all they had to do was a 20-second thing of them seeing on the news, oh man, Terry Silver was on a yacht and it blew up, and they think that Kreese was on the yacht and died, and then like Johnny's like, oh my God, like that's all they had to show. Like I just wanted to know what Johnny felt about like Kreese dying, or like like would he just never know? Would he just think that, oh well, Kreese disappeared, like he apologized to me and then he disappeared? Like there was a little bit of disappointment in me for that,
I can see that. To me, it didn't. Well, I also think like they're both kind of underground characters, so like uncovering the wreckage of a blown up yacht and finding two bodies on it that one are probably burnt to a crisp and unidentifiable past anything but dental records, and then submerged in the ocean. Who knows how long it goes before the boat's even found. So I mean, you could have their remains that aren't even identifiable anymore. plus they're two people. I mean, Kreese was living in, Bangkok or Korea or wherever he was when he found Wolf. So, like, obviously Silver was underground and kind of off the grid, and Kreese has more or less been off the grid forever anyway, just because of, his checkered history, and then when he escaped prison. So, I mean, these two guys are probably so, like, off the grid, so to speak, that they probably wouldn't even catch a major news headline. If they probably just like, oh, we found a boat that exploded, and it's like, who's Terry Silver, who's John Kreese, you know what I mean?
I probably thought about it too much, but the fact that, like, obviously if you have a yacht that you're like living on or something, like, wouldn't you have to have like a captain or somebody, some sort of person, not maintaining, but like driving the yacht? Like, wouldn't
not
this
necessarily. He could be a boating, avid boating fan, and just do it all as Captain C himself.
That's the one thing I'm thinking of. I'm like, if there was somebody like a staff member, or he had that guy that Kreese killed, like, you're telling me that none of these people have families and would know if their family member was missing? Like,
I'm sure that guy doesn't, because that guy was definitely an underground thug.
I don't know.
There's no way that guy's got a trace of lineage.
So it just disappointed me slightly. Like, I wasn't like, oh, the show was garbage because of that. Like, it just bugged me a little bit, but not enough to make it the whole thing bad, because I think the whole thing I was very satisfied with the whole thing.
My thought on that is the fact that I think the writers obviously intended to end everyone's story happy.
Yeah.
And even in Kreese's death, for him, that was still ending his story happy.
Yeah.
Like, he gets his reconciliation with the parties he needs to, and then his final act of forgiveness or selflessness or whatever is to eliminate Silver from being a pain in the rear end to Daniel and Johnny. So, like, even in death, that was still kind of a happy ending for Kreese's character.
Yeah, and then because of him, I think is really, he's saying, I wish I could help or something, and Johnny's like, well, actually, there's something you can do, and that's how they're able to enter the tournament with Robbie being injured. So,
and I almost feel like, even if Johnny did find out about their death way after the fact, I don't necessarily know that it would come as such a big, heartbreaking shock, because they had that resolution, and
right.
He had that
That's true.
kind of passing of the torch to him. So he may look at it and think, "Oh, he's gone," but his final act to me was something so selfless that, like, it felt, it kind of feels more touching to him than just deep sorrow.
Right, like he's not carrying anything around since they made up. So yeah, I could see that. So yeah, I mean, I'll think of this show for years to come, and I'll be like, oh, that was a great finale. Yeah. I put it at the top, and there was no doubt in my mind that they were going to do it right.
2 thumbs high.
2 thumbs up. So if you enjoy listening to our show, we would appreciate it if you would give us 2 thumbs up, but not thumbs. We want stars. We would like 5 stars, please.
5, not 2. Don't give us 2. Give us 5.
Yes. And let us know what you think about each episode. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at real reviews, real spelled REEL, real@gmail.com. Also, make sure to follow along with us on Instagram and TikTok. Hopefully TikTok sticks around. We'll see what happens. I am Binge the Ginge with dots between the words for Instagram, not for TikTok. He is Nutmeg, the number 2, Palmetto. As always, you can find video episodes on YouTube and Rumble, and stream us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Up next, we have a few lives coming up. So first, tonight, we're going live with our first interview that we've ever done. It's with a real sensei, Red Sensei 10P, about his background in karate, and he'll give us the scoop on what's realistic in Cobra Kai and what is not. Then we have a few lives coming up the next couple Sundays. First, we have the SAG Awards, February 23rd, and the Oscars on March 2nd. So until the next real review, Red and Red signing out.
In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world.
Don't act so surprised, Your Highness.
Hey guys, you ready to let the dogs out?
What? Do what?
No. Try not. Do. Or do not.
Because I don't want no scrubs.
Let the dogs out, you know, like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Who brought this guy along?
I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chump some of this shit.
One more thing. Do me a favor. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
I'll take care, all right? None but love for you. None but love for you.
Have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
Blow up! Peace! Smile, you son of a...
You did it. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it.
Not funny anymore.
TLC references. Still, nothing. I swear to you.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.